tilting. Hi, hey there, hello. Welcome back to my space. Not my space, but my creative space. Here I've made you.
What? You think my life is perfect?
I'm starting a little silly this video because it's going to be a pretty heavy one, I guess you could say. I was given this wonderful microphone, so now I really feel like I'm channeling my voice somewhere. But first, my husband's home. Charlie, Daddy's home!
It's me, Daddy-o. Bubba, what are you doing in here?
All right, and we are back. I have been struggling with a few things in the past, I want to say month or two, concerning my upbringing, my background, my family. So not only have I recorded footage with, in some parts, no audio at all, but if I'm just going over everything, kind of like to summarize my thoughts, when I found out that I was adopted when I was 15, because, and it's hard to explain to people who aren't adopted, right? It's that like crushing feeling at first, because it's like, wait, what does that mean? And I started thinking about, okay, well, let's just switch roles. Like, how would you feel if you were a parent and your child kept the fact that they had a boyfriend for 15 years or a significant other from them for 15 years? How would you feel about that? Unacceptable! It's still not even on the same level. It's just very hard to explain. And a lot of the articles that I was reading dives into like a deeper part of it, in that the physical and emotional and psychological connection you have with your birth mom is like your first connection with anybody. So if you, I don't know, like just snatched out of the mother's arms, it just creates a chaotic environment for the baby. We had some technical difficulties, to say the least. Now, in the first video, I was supposed to be reacting, but we're here now, so I'm happy to elaborate, expand on what I was trying to get at before. So what I had mentioned before is lately, at least in the past few weeks to maybe a couple months of this year, I've had some family things pop up, internal struggles that I'm trying to process, that prompted me to search on my own YouTube channel, in my YouTube studio. And I was just curious of what is the most viewed video that I have. And mind you, I've had YouTube for the past 10 years. I've just had a lot of things on private. So when I did go to my YouTube studio and I filtered it, I sorted it by most viewed, I was very surprised that this video titled "The Moment I Knew I Was Adopted" had 584 views. And it was like less than a minute long. It almost was a sign to me that I needed to discuss this and come back to it, because yeah, it has been something that's been on my mind a lot lately. So I may have mentioned this before, but this video is going to be half reaction / half explaining my lyrics of an original song, or original songs that I written and made revolving around my feelings and point of view of my adoption situation and why I have these feelings as an adult. Since I couldn't cover in the last video because of shitty audio, I'm going to go ahead and just let the video play, and I will get back to y'all after you view it. The moment I knew I was adopted was when I turned 15. It was at my birthday dinner, and I had my parents at the table with me. We're eating, and all of a sudden I decided that was the time to ask. And it just came out like, hey, am I adopted? And I started laughing at myself, and I couldn't believe I even asked it. But then they both looked at me and said yes. And as far as my biological mother, all I know is she's from Madagascar, and I'm grateful that she carried me. But as far as my real parents, they're the ones who were at that dinner table on my 15th birthday. Yep. that was it. When watching it a couple days ago as part of the reaction, I was very surprised that my attitude was positive. Not that it shouldn't have been, but it's just because I'm in such this turmoil inside and this internal struggle that I've been going through lately. I was just very almost taken aback at how positive and grateful I sounded when expressing myself to strangers about my adoption story. It was actually really nice to see me 10 years ago seem so understanding and almost more mature about the situation. But unfortunately, 10 years ago, I wasn't enlightened by the fact that adoption is trauma, and my therapist really just a month or two ago brought it up to me that, yeah, because I'm adopted, I have adoption trauma. It's the first time I've ever heard of that. Because I found out I was adopted when I was 15 years old, I was a child. And I had a lot of hormones and puberty and interest in boys and, you know, the daunting feeling of college creeping in a different country and outside of living with my parents. It was a lot. So I think as a child, I acted out, not knowing that there were issues going on around my feelings about what I just heard, which was, yes, you are adopted. And I hope I've covered this in the past video, and I think I did. Yeah, I was trying to make it make sense for those of you who aren't adopted. And I remember discussing this with a few people who just had a genuine curiosity or question for me, like, you know, in the grand scheme of things, what does it matter that you've never met your biological mother? They were probably thinking of it as in, like, I'm an adult now and I'm prospering. So like, why do you need to know about your mother? And for me, it was like, okay, I know that they don't understand, so let me just ask them this. Do you know your mother? Do you know your mother's name? Have you seen your mother recently? And so if you've seen her recently, you know what she looks like. You know what she looks like. If you said yes to any of those questions, then you can't understand where I'm coming from. And that's fine. Like, I totally understand. But I can't say yes to any of those questions. Any of them. I can't tell you what my mother looks like. I can't tell you her name. I can't tell you anything about her. And it's like the woman that you are born from is a pretty big deal. Like, there's a lot of feelings that a child and a mother experience together in the beginning of their life and in a normal situation throughout their life. I don't even know if my biological mother is dead. I don't know if she's alive. These technical difficulties got to go. Anyway, where was I? Okay, so I think I was talking about the fact that when I was 15 years old, I did not see a professional, an expert, a therapist, a counselor about this life-changing revelation. So that has just been lingering in my mind and basically playing catch up. Cute little curly. And like I mentioned before, and I will mention again in another video that deals with adoption, because I've written several songs on Voicey revolving around that, I've sort of lately put myself in my biological mother's shoes, not necessarily my parents. Apparently my biological father was not around for anything except for the fun part. But also that I feel like not only am I sort of missing them or missing out on just knowing them, them being in my life, I also feel like I'm a missing piece in their life. Maybe I would bring about a shameful part of their life. There could be a really negative history behind why I was given up. There could be a yearning there from her on her end, kind of similar to me. But at the same time, when I do feel this way and I do start having thoughts along those lines, I start feeling like guilty, as if like my adopted mom, my real mom, the mom who raised me and brought me up and, you know, cared for me and still loves me and I can call her for anything, and that I love dearly. It makes me feel like any curiosity that I have towards my biological mother somehow diminishes the love and care that my real mom has provided to me. I hate being in that position, but I can't help it sometimes. So there's a lot of times where I'll have these thoughts and I try to just move on to something else because it's too painful to think that I'm letting my adopted mom down. I think I tried to touch on this before in saying that I think I read somewhere in an article like top 10 things not to say or do with an adopted child, and one of those things is not to tell them you have a better life because you're adopted, because having a better life is subjective. What if I would have been happier with being in a village that's not surrounded by, this capitalist idea of, and this American dream, and having material things and traveling the world and having money or not having money, like being so wrapped up in that mentality, and just be happy with the people around you. And that in itself brings someone joy. I wouldn't put it past me that I can't say prefer that life, but I wouldn't put it past me that I would enjoy that life, because it's alienating right now. The life I lead right now is alienating and triggering. Whenever I hear that there's a secret being kept between two people who are close, that's triggering, because again, I wasn't told I was adopted until I was 15. So technically that's something that was not shared with me. I can't say hidden, but in a way it was just not communicated to me until I asked, which in hindsight, that means they were never going to tell me unless I asked. So if I hadn't asked, what I know now to this day, was 15 too young or too old? It's one of those things. So I'm triggered. I'm pretty much triggered in almost every situation. Sometimes it's something I can just brush off and keep moving. Other times I'm stuck in my own head and I can't get out of it. So it's best to tell a child who's adopted that they're adopted as early as possible. I read that instead of telling them that they should be grateful and thankful for this better life. Don't get me wrong, I'm so grateful for the life that I have right now. And I wouldn't have met my husband, I wouldn't have had all the beautiful experiences I've had as a child and an adult without my real parents, being there for me. And even to this day, just being around, I love them to death. But it's best that you tell the child that they were given an opportunity to have a different life, which is a little bit more true, right? I might not even be alive today if I had not been adopted. I was, from what I understand and from pictures, I was malnourished when I was given away. I had a bloat belly, which makes me pretty upset to think about. I had a chance for life, because of my real parents, because my biological mom couldn't provide for me at the very basic level, which is confusing, because it's well, could I not have survived on breast milk for a little while? Is there nothing set up in Madagascar where there's help? So it upsets me to think that I was hanging by a thread, and it was the best action possible for me, and I wouldn't be here without her selflessly giving me away. And then I get into a space where I'm thinking about her. My biological mom, maybe she was not only torn, but really upset to give me away, So yeah, I know that if I had a child, I would be really upset to give them away. No matter what, the situation is with the father or my circumstances, I would be really upset. And maybe that pain would be there if we were to meet again. You never know. So, anyways, but I have realized that I can't live in the woulda, coulda, shouldas of my life. I can't live in the fantasy of, well, I could have made it and I could have grown up with her and I would have been happier, or I should have been, left with my biological mother. I can't say that because it doesn't do me any good. I can't go back and change anything. That's those thoughts. Nothing can change where I'm at right now and what's happened. In the last filming of this topic, I was trying to say that I can't speak for others, but as an adopted child, I personally exist in two spaces. a space of gratitude and in the present, and just living my life in this life that I have been given, as well as living in a space of wonder. Like, I wonder what my life would be, and I wonder what the difference would look like. And I also wonder, what if I did hire I guess they would be called detectives, but just someone to help me find my biological mother. There's actually a second video that I posted on my YouTube 10 years ago that was just an extension of what I shared, and I'm going to just put that extension here. So those statistics were a little devastating to review, as well as the statistics I have come across with the whole adoption trauma. More likely emotional, mental, psychological issues. That's not great to know and feel and hear. But we're not going to focus on the negative. I wanted to go ahead and break down the lyrics that on the 8th of March, I wrote a song called The Blame Game through Voicey. I did it in 2 parts. Part 1 was almost as if it was me singing to my mother, my biological mother, and asking her, wouldn't it be nice if you basically didn't give me away? It was an emotional day when I decided to sing a freestyle about how I was feeling. I was also trying to find a way on how to explain how I feel, as opposed to just say I'm adopted, that I'm having issues with it. And I kind of go into how I feel like I can't even express anything negative about it. Some people might see this as I'm being ungrateful about my situation, and I'm just supposed to be constantly happy about it, which is not the case. Like, we all have issues with a lot of things in our life. The second part of the song is a little bit more negative, and I'm really just singing about how I'm feeling empty. I'm feeling maybe even lost. I'm feeling that the primal connection that I have with my mom is something that I no longer have. My biological mother is something I don't have and will never have. And it's just one of those things, like, ask yourself, how would you feel if you didn't know your mom? Just imagine you don't have that. And I know you can't, but that's exactly my situation. I do have my real mom, my adopted mom, who I love as if she was my biological mother. But unfortunately, I do have 2 distinctive parents. And, it just comes back to the whole, well, I wonder what kind of connection I would have with my biological mother, or how that feels to have a blood relative. I don't have a blood relative that I see, for Christmas or for my birthday. And that's what's sometimes alienating about this whole thing. And just this last line from part 2, I wanted to go ahead and say out loud, and then I will let the music play, as they say, is I can't even describe this emptiness inside, and what I'm missing is that primal connection with the woman who hosted me and carried me and nursed me to life. She basically looked me in my eyes and said, I'll be just fine without you by my side. So there's 2 interpretations of that lyric, that in itself was interesting to me. The very last line, she looked me in my eyes and said, I'll be just fine without you by my side. The first interpretation of that is, okay, my biological mother looked me in my eyes before she gave me away to someone else, to my adopted parents, and maybe in her head she said, I'll be fine without this baby. Like, here she is, she being me, here you go, good riddance. That's honestly the first feeling that I got after hearing back the freestyle. Like, damn, I'm really kind of shitting on my birth mom about, like, her giving me away. But after a while, after a few maybe days or maybe even weeks, I saw the line differently, as if, like, she looked me in my eyes as a baby and maybe even said in her native language to me, you're gonna be just fine without me because you're in good hands. So without further ado, I wanted to share that voicey with you. It's called The Blame Game Part 1 and 2. I'm not making a music video for it because it just feels kind of weird, and I think just watching it as is would be better. So I have the producer of this song and voicey is in the description below and my pinned comment. All right, well, hope you enjoy. Wouldn't it be nice to look into my eyes and keep me this time? You see, I'm a missing piece of my own family tree, and I'm craving. You see, I'm not allowed to say that the decision made for me has left me empty and happy. No, I should be lucky. The problem that I have is I have nothing to grasp. Not even the mother I had, the one who hosted me and nursed me from nothing. How can I say I'm fine? Do you know what it feels like? Ripped from your bloodline. I can't even describe this emptiness inside, and what I'm missing is that primal connection with the woman that hosted me and carried me and nursed me to life. She looked me in my eye and said I'll be just fine without you by my side.